You want me to do what? If you haven't had that question go through your mind, if a boss has asked you to do something unethical, or maybe it goes against your conscience a little bit, believe me, you will. I remember my first job out of college. I was working for a really good company, had a great boss who asked me to do something that really went against my conscience. He asked me to, in the system, computer system, dismiss some inventory or make it hide, disappear, so that the company wouldn't have to pay taxes on that inventory. That posed quite a problem, and at first I didn't know what to do. And I wish I would have had this framework or these tools that I'm going to share with you when I was faced with that problem. But before we get to that, I'd like to share a little bit of an interview with you from Richard Lombard, an IT manager, who just shares some of his perspective on what do you do when you're faced with an ethical dilemma in the workplace.
Another situation that you may get involved in is where you are asked to do things that go against your values as a person or as a Christian, where you may be asked to look the other way. You may be asked to fudge some figures to make the company look more positive, or to say some things that aren't quite true about the services or the products that you have to offer. And if that's the case, then I would recommend also reconsidering whether that's a place that you should be. Now, from personal experience, I never had a real extreme situation, but I put myself in a situation where I actually lied to a competitor for the purpose of gaining some competitive knowledge about their product. And so I positioned myself as working for some other company. And my conscience, my godly conscience, got the best of me, where I eventually called back that competitor and confessed the fact that I had lied to them in order to get their competitive information sent to me. So granted, this is before the days of the internet. So now the internet allows you to go online and basically check out almost anything about any company that's out there. But I realized that I was crossing the lines to benefit our company. And I had to qualify that I was not asked to do that. That was something that I creatively thought of myself to do. But then, and God certainly showed me that was not the right thing to do. But if you're ever asked to do something that violates your conscience, then I would certainly consider pushing back on that. It doesn't necessarily mean leaving the company, but just telling your boss that that's something that you don't feel comfortable doing, and that you will not do that. And is there somebody else on your team that that could be reassigned to?
You know, the Bible has a lot to say about honesty and integrity and walking uprightly. I'm going to share some of those at the end with you in Scripture. You can kind of dig deeper. Here's what David had to say. He said, "O Lord, who may abide in your tabernacle? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? It's he who walks with integrity and practices righteousness, who speaks the truth from his heart. Those who refuse to gossip or harm their neighbor or speak evil of their friends. The one who despises those who are utterly wicked, but who honors the one who fears the Lord, who keeps his word even when it hurts and does not change. Who lends money to the poor without interest, who does not accept a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things will never be shaken." Hey, I want to give you a tool to help you better think about, or rather process, ethical dilemmas if you might face them. Not if, when. This book is from Randy Douglas and Norm Geisler's book, Integrity at Work. And so it's an acronym, and it said ethics, E-T-H-I-C-S. And this ethics framework you can kind of process through if you're asked to do something that you feel might be unethical or it's going against your conscience. So the first is E, examine the facts. So you need to have really good listening skills, ask probing questions, and really understand what are the facts to this situation. The T is truth-seeking. So given all these facts, now think about actually what's the truth? What really reflects reality here? And you can actually dig into Scripture a lot to get wisdom on how to think or approach something from a perspective of truth. I encourage you to really look into the proverb. So the H is to hesitate. Ask yourself, why does this bother me? What's going on here? Why don't I really feel comfortable with this? And there's probably a reason. So you want to kind of process that, maybe even process it with someone else, and really get a good feel for what's going on emotionally before you just go and make a decision about something. Bad times to make decisions, by the way, can be remembered by this little acronym, HALT. When you're hungry, when you're angry, when you're lonely, or when you're tired. So if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, it's even a better idea to hesitate before you process and make a decision. So the first is E, examine the facts. T is seek the truth. H is hesitate. I is identify the greater good. I identify the greater good. So think about loving God more than people, and people more than yourself, and actually people more than things. So as you're processing, is this a really good ethical decision or not, kind of consider that framework or those questions. So always take the high road. C, consider the consequences and what are some creative alternatives to accomplishing what your boss is asking you to do without breaking an ethical code or really violating your conscience or what actually God is calling us to. So that's going to require some digging, and especially the creative alternatives. You really have to ask the boss, well, what's his goal? Why is he asking me to do this? What's his end game? He's probably didn't get out of bed in the morning saying, oh, I think I'm going to ask John to go do something unethical. He probably was thinking during the beginning of his day, okay, I need to accomplish this, this, and this in order to meet my goals. So you need to figure out, well, what are his goals? And perhaps you can think of an alternative way to get his goals accomplished without compromising your ethics. S, finally, is stand for God no matter what. You know, there will be times when your boss is going to ask you to do this unethical behavior or task no matter what. And you know what? You might get fired. You might not get promoted. You might even get a lot of peer pressure because you're not part of the team. You know, who cares? You know, it is painful. It can be scary. Not having income can be a little stressful. But ultimately, you know, God will honor that, and He will take care of you when you have to stand for Him and make the hard decision to obey Him rather than to obey your boss or to suffer kind of the ostracization that you might experience from your peers. But you know what? God's good. He's faithful. And again, He will provide for you in ways that you won't even know ahead of time. Okay, the rest of the story from when my boss asked me to do something that was unethical. Basically, I felt I didn't go through this ethics framework. You know, I didn't know about it at the time. However, ultimately what I did is I just said, I don't feel comfortable with this, doing this, and I'm sorry, I just can't do it. So I approached it with humility and honesty, and God gave me some courage. And you know what happened? He just ended up having somebody else do it, and I didn't have to actually do that. So in the end, that ended up working out. Hang around for some questions that make you think deeper, as well as some scriptures that you can examine to help us think more about how do we live righteously, how do we live ethically in our work environment and in our culture.